once it hits your lips, it's so good.
Silly old dad. Have my seat.
Hello, 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 and welcome to
Mike,
yet another
it hurt my tooth.
edition
Wait until he opens it so he can say the name. So we can
of oh gosh darn, I should have been opening up this shirt. This is a nice shirt.
not anymore. It's not.
Not anymore. It's not. Oh gosh darn it! What you?
Just wait. Just give it here. All right.
But I was super glue.
What hurt my tooth? All right.
Oh, because you bit it. That's why I can't get it off. Good job.
Anyways, we'll just
Welcome.
great opening.
I am your one and only Jamin, near and dear to my heart, Bassette. Of course, joined by James,
The Yellow Dart.
Bassette,
We're in all
and we are 2 drinks in. It's been a while for 2 drinks in. Of course, you guys don't feel that back home because we haven't posted the other ones yet. But you'll feel a little gap. You'll notice Jamin has gotten a little fatter since those first couple of 2 drinks in.
And James has gotten absolutely nothing because I never change.
Facial hair, maybe.
He can't see it.
You can't see it.
He can't. I got a little beard going here.
Well, here on 2 drinks in, of course, we're going to talk about topics that are near and dear to my heart, but they're going to be a little different.
Just a tad.
Now, this one is a gaming topic. We've already had a couple gaming themed 2 drinks in. This time, we're going to talk about something that is super near and dear to my very recent heart. It's Nintendo. Now, we've already had a state of Japanese gaming. We already did one of those. We already got posted up. We already did a couple different videos talking about different Nintendo properties and some Pokemon ones. We talked a little bit about Paper Mario.
Yeah.
But here we're going to talk about Nintendo as
a whole.
As a whole. And the idea is Nintendo, some of the best first-party software and some of the worst
hardware
humanly imaginable. How can one company be known for such great software, such awful hardware? Now, you probably wonder where it comes from. Okay, let's start back at the beginning. NES.
Back in the days.
NES wasn't bad hardware. It was incredibly cheap hardware. In reality, a lot of the parts were really, really old parts. Some of them actually straight from Atari parts. We're talking 8-year-old technology. And of course, you follow Moore's law, 8-year-old technology was made obsolete like years ago. At the point where they made the NES, technically the system was completely out of date. That's why arcade games look so much better than NES. They had to port them down pretty bad. But they were smart about it. They didn't position it as a computer. They positioned it as an entertainment device. They didn't want it known as a game system either. That was a big thing. If you look at the Famicom that was released in Japan, it looked and was marketed as a game system. But here in the States, it was marketed as an entertainment system. You remember it came with a little Rob the Robot. We got a hand-me-down, so we didn't get one of those first-generation Rob the Robots or anything like that. But the hardware was, even though it was cheaply made, it was pretty decent.
Yeah.
Way better than its competition on the market. The Atari 5600, or 52, was it 5200? No, it's 2600 and 5200. The Atari 5200, which was total crap in comparison. The NES was a decent machine, but most importantly, the software. That generation, there is nothing on Atari that is must-play compared to the must-plays of the NES. Heck, even the Sega Master System, they had what? Alex the Kid? This was before even Sonic the Hedgehog. The Sega Master System, it did come out in the States. I don't know a single person who owned one. Everyone was NES.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, we obviously look back at now and go, oh, man, this is total crap compared to what we have now. But it's like, back then, being as, though not very, I wouldn't say high-tech, but just being the way it was for not having very many, not much competition, just us not realizing what a console really is yet, it was magical. It really was.
It's great. And some of the software highlights, of course, was, the Mario games.
Oh, my God.
Mario Bros. 3. It's mind-blowing. Mario Bros. 1 and 3 were on the same system. It's just mind-blowing. Like, they're such black and white different games. Oh, my gosh. Battletoads, first game I ever played. It's definitely up there. So, NES. The hardware was old. It wasn't very powerful as it could be, but they were able to make it super cheap. They were able to get it in a lot of homes, and the software was more than enough to make up for that.
Oh.
So let's fast forward to the Super NES. Super NES was a very special case. It actually was the most powerful console at its time, not by a whole lot. And although we were a Sega Genesis family, so we were all blast processing, Sonic is best, woo! Now the Super Nintendo,
Sonic and Knuckles.
you can put the games on top of each other, have like a stack.
They become one mega game.
It was awesome. Don't get me wrong. Sega was awesome.
Yeah, Sonic is definitely a huge piece of our childhood.
But the Super Nintendo empirically was the more powerful system. It ended up selling only a little more than Sega Genesis. Okay, in the States, it ended up kind of blown out of the water. But in other places like Europe, Sega Genesis actually did really well. So at the end of the generation, the more sophisticated hardware ended up winning. The controller actually for the Super NES was way better than Genesis. You remember the Genesis was just the 3 buttons.
Yeah, it was like a little block thing.
And for you fighting fans out there, I wasn't much of a fighting fan. In order to, because for a regular fighting game, you had at least 4 buttons you needed. You had to press the start button as the other button. You know how awkward that is?
It's like, oh, I'm playing. Whoa, pause the game. Oh, I'm punching him in the face. Pause.
But it was a butt controller.
But there were a couple worse, weren't there?
Oh, definitely. So first generation software is what saves saves the original Nintendo.
Yes,
We go to the Super Nintendo. They actually had the more powerful hardware and arguably just as powerful, if not more powerful, software. Nintendo 64. I will still hold that Nintendo 64 has some of the best software imaginable.
I'm still going back and playing that stuff. I mean, the 64 is
to this
timeless.
day.
It's freaking timeless.
If they need a remake, Majora's Mask for 3DS. I've been playing that Zelda remake. It's legit. It's super legit.
But is it too legit
to quit? we're the verdict's out on that one. All right. Some great Mario 64, Mario Kart. That 64 Mario Kart just blew the original Mario Kart out of the waters, beat it to death. It's just so much better.
It is still, in my opinion, the second greatest Mario Kart game.
After Double Dash?
Double Dash.
I'm a big co-op guy. Yeah.
I am a huge GameCube fan for some reason. The GameCube.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. We're getting there. All right, I'll explain my thoughts on that later.
Okay, but 64. Great software. Probably the best. In fact, like I said, the original PlayStation, Final Fantasy was a huge impact on me. I love Final Fantasy to death. Way better than any of the RPGs on a 64. But 64 still had some of the greatest gaming memories I'll ever have.
Yeah.
The controller was complete butt.
It was impossible. Like, check it. You got like 3 different ways to hold the thing. You're just like, pushing all the button. It's impossible. No, up, down, D-pad, B, start. You can't. And it honestly looked like the Star Fox ship. That's what you just turn it sideways, and that's what it was. It was a Star Fox ship, or the as Jamin said, the X-wing. The X-wing. Yeah, it's like, what is this? Whose idea was it to make a controller like this?
It was the worst design controller imaginable for a mainstream system, and it was just completely, utterly awful. And the hardware itself, the 64 was more powerful than PlayStation. It came out later, so you'd imagine that. But even then, they didn't make it as good as it should have been. They had to sell expansion packs. They had to sell rumble packs. The memory, they had to sell little memory packs.
Very few games you could save anything on the game itself, and remember it. You had to buy a memory card.
And cartridges were so understocked. The average cartridge only had 16 megabytes worth of data. Yeah. And put things in comparison, the average CD can hold 700 megabytes of data.
Well, not only that, but they were more expensive than games are now, and they took forever to get to work. Everyone knows the
even the Nintendo 64 was suffering from this. It was
like to the extreme.
And like you were saying, a brand new PlayStation game costs anywhere between $40 and $50. A brand new 64 game costs $70 to $80. I remember buying Pokemon Stadium for almost $100. Oh, this must have been Pokemon Stadium too. Almost $100.
No, don't get us wrong. That game is legit. Like,
But-
there's so many things you can do, and we still play it. But $100 for a game.
The Last of Us, one of the greatest games I've ever played in my life, $60.
The only game,
Like a decade later.
the only game you pay $100 for now is like, oh, this is the special anniversary edition, and you get an extra game with it and a controller or something. I mean, it's always extra stuff. There's no game itself. I mean, you just don't pay that much.
So again, we have another case of hardware, but software great. Unfortunately, GameCube had the same fate. The 64 actually sold pretty well. Not nearly as good as the PlayStation, but pretty well to hold its own.
Yeah.
Fast forward here to the GameCube. The GameCube looked kind of crappy. Now,
It was a cube, and it was actually just about the same size, not smaller than the 64. I mean,
the controller was definitely better, but
it had the same feel to it. It had the same feel.
hold the DualShock 2 from a PlayStation. Hold the S variant controller from the first Xbox, and then hold the GameCube controller and tell me the GameCube controller is better. It's not. It's not a very good controller. You can see what they're going for. They wanted to stack everything that the 64 controller had, plus a little extra, all into one grip. And they succeed in that. That wasn't necessarily what they should have been aiming for.
Yeah, I mean, you had a bunch of different buttons, which was cool, and it helped with a lot of the games. But it's just...
First-person shooters were awkward.
I never, ever have gotten into a RPG or a first-person shooter for the GameCube, Wii, or anything, except like I want to say like one, maybe two games. It was only very, very few games, and no sport games either. The Wii, unless it was Mario. I mean, the Wii, GameCube, that was Mario. That was all I ever played on that. The Mario parties.
Mario Box.
And like we were talking about earlier, though the GameCube sucked comparatively, in that it bombed comparatively. Like, people didn't really buy it, didn't play the games, which is very disappointing because the Mario Karts, Double Dash, probably the best. The Smash Brothers, Brawl, probably the best.
I'm probably going to quote these numbers wrong. Someone correct me. I think it was 28 million GameCubes sold, compared to the 152 million PlayStation 2s. The GameCube did not do very well. And like you were saying, the series that were created, or you could say were
Continued.
were brought up in the 64 era, they were perfected in the GameCube era.
Yeah, and some of them that they created just for that, like Mario Strikers, the very original, not the one for the Wii. The one for the Wii is still legit, but the one for the GameCube was the best. It is the best. I mean, GameCube has some of the best Mario games, but it got no recognition because it was a crappy system.
And that sucks. Like we were saying, they have some of the best software and some of the worst hardware, and there has to be some kind of disconnect. So so we had Nintendo 64. Sorry, NES. Huge success, made a lot of money. The Super Nintendo made even more money, and that was actually a pretty solid system. 64, they still made money on it, but definitely was kind of the loser of the generation. We go to GameCube. GameCube was hands down the loser of that generation, sales-wise.
It was the ugly cousin's dog of the group. I mean, it's just, no one liked it. It was just, again, a shame.
One of the most immersive first-person games ever created, the Metroid Prime series, and no one played it. I think the first Metroid Prime sold only 1.9 million copies. Put things in perspective, Call of Duty had more than 1.9 pre-orders per game in the franchise. It's sad.
That's because every 10-year-old who had finished his homework went and pre-ordered it. I'm gonna kill you, you noob. Honestly, kids, it's rated M game. Seriously, just go to your Pokemons and your Marios, which I still play, by the way. So it's not degrading in any way. But seriously, stay off our shoot 'em, bloody buddy games, please.
Okay, so this brings us here to the Wii. Monetarily speaking, the Wii won this generation. Not only did the Wii sell the most, it's quickly approaching 100 million consoles sold, which is huge. We're saying that is over 3 times the amount of the GameCube. Over 3 times. That is mind-blowing. Yeah. And you know what? The system is still butt.
It is. It really is. And like, honestly, the game, there's still some really good games on it, obviously. But again,
great games.
There's some of the better of the games. They continue a certain saga that the GameCube was just better.
Smash Brothers,
Mario Kart, Mario Strikers. I mean,
Pokemon.
Pokemon. Some of the oh my gosh, yeah, because
their version of Stadium.
Yeah, the Wii version of Stadium was GameCube had Coliseum.
Yeah.
And
at least they tried something different.
Yeah, and it was a good game. I liked it. Like it wasn't what I expected, so at first I didn't enjoy it as much, but it was still really good. So I mean, yeah, the Wii just, especially since like I've always envisioned the whole move the control, they do something, and it's just super awesome. Oh my god, I told him to do that, and he did that. Especially with all those years playing PlayStation 2, throwing the controller like this, saying shoot him, shoot him. So it's really cool that they made a system where the controller does that. But even then, it's still lacking.
Yeah.
And it's just like I don't know, the Wii just. I don't know.
And even if the system sold well, you ready for a mind blow moment?
Mind blown.
Okay. The Wii was the greatest selling system this generation. In fact, the PlayStation 3 is sitting around 77 billion. Mm-hmm. So, a good chunk less, almost a quarter less. Uncharted 3 sold more than Skyward Sword. Almost double Skyward Sword.
So what on earth are they, all these people with the Wiis, what are they buying?
Are you ready to have another mind blown?
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna throw a term out there called attachment rate. This is how many pieces of software are sold per system. Now, some people like us, we buy way more than the average. Yeah. So some people buy less, and so we kind of even each other out, and that's how the average gets created. Right now, the PlayStation Vita is considered kind of a failure as a system. Hasn't sold a whole lot, approaching about only 5 million sold, which isn't very good, especially compared to 3DS. But the attachment rate to it is 12 games per system, which is pretty decent. The 3DS in comparison, which has sold way more, we're approaching like 36 million. Their attachment rate is about 11 titles per game, which is still pretty solid. The Nintendo Wii has an attach rate of 4.5 games per system. That means out there, like you own well more than 8, right?
Dude, we have like 20 in our house.
There are at least 200,000 families that own the system, or at least a million people that own the system that only own the game it came with, Wii Sports.
Which, honestly, Wii Sports is pretty fun, but that's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. They're not selling software. And so I think Nintendo has to be feeling that pain. Even if they're selling the system at a profit, you make your money off of software.
That's not only that, but we just talked about how software has been their livelihood through this entire thing.
Exactly.
So the fact that they're crashing it, and especially how well the 3DS is doing, the DS, and all their handheld games have always done really well.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see them become mainly that, but the Wii U, that's their next step. That's their big upgrade. I mean, Xbox One can do better than that.
Okay, ready for another mind blow?
Why not?
In the first week of its release, The Last of Us sold more copies in the United Kingdom than every single piece of software sold for the Wii U since its launch in November to the present. In 1 week. One game. That's not very good.
I'm not too surprised because Naughty Dog is awesome and their games are off the charts awesome. But that's still really sad, yeah. I mean, like, the Wii U is fun. It really is. But that's your next step.
But is it $350 of fun when the PlayStation 4 is only $400?
Heck no. It's like an attachment. That's what it feels like. It's an attachment. It's like, hey, you can buy this to go. No, it's not a new system. It's not a new thing. No. Not acceptable. Nintendo, come on.
It's so sad. And out of everyone in this world, no one wants to see Nintendo succeed more than us.
That is, like, honestly,
they're our childhood.
I still bought a Wii, regardless of how crappy it is. I play every Mario game they pretty much have for it.
I recently jumped ship. Can you probably can't see in the background, can you? Over there, can you see it? After over a decade, I bought my first Nintendo game system, 3DS. I'm on board, and I only got 4 games for them. He also bought one just recently.
I have only one game for the 3DS itself because I only recently bought it. I still play my old DS games because they're awesome. When I get back to the States, I'll probably buy more games, obviously.
But we're jumping back on board because they sold me on the 3DS. Now, again, 3DS, I know we've been talking about consoles. 3DS is another case where the software is pretty solid. I am totally into Paper Mario, as I was saying before.
Yeah.
I love it to death.
They do a really good job with the 3D. It's the way it should be. And like, you don't need the glasses or any of that crap. It's got that little adjusted thing on the side. You don't even have to play with it if you don't want it.
I'm into the new Super Mario Bros. Even if it feels a little short, it still feels fun.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to play that new Super Mario World. Nothing good about that. That Fire Emblem. I still think you should try to pick it up on the eShop. I hear nothing but great things about that game.
Yeah.
The system itself, I think the 3D is the only thing it gets right. Well, that when you close it, it is the instant like save where you're at.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's the way.
Pause, if you will.
That's the way it should be. That's perfect for portable systems.
What I don't get is why don't they just take the things they do right and continue it? SP. The SP was well before its time. Like, awesome game. It's super tiny when it closed, fits in your pocket, everything, and it never felt like it was gonna break on you. You open that thing up, it was sturdy as all heck. The DS, you whip it open, like, oh my god, did I break it? No. It's just really flimsy for some reason.
It feels so flimsy.
I've broken, like, my original DSs, both of them broke the same way with the hinges down here that connects the two screens, and they broke. Well, a piece of it broke, and so I have to hold it up myself. And it's like, I'm not brutal with my games. I never drop it. I take good care of it. Why does it keep breaking on me?
Another case of software over hardware, and it's so mind-blowing. Why can't they get hardware right? I really don't understand it.
What really sucks is when they try to do the hardware right and they screw up the software, like the Wii.
Oh man, I'm at a loss for. I really hope they come out with a redesigned 3. I mean, I just bought one, so I really hope it's not too soon. I hope they come with a redesigned 3DS. Just feels sturdier. Like I've gotten my hands on a Vita. I haven't bought a Vita yet because, to be perfectly honest, $250. That's too rich for my blood.
Especially for a handheld. I mean, like the 3DS, obviously you can buy one that's just as expensive or even more. But that's like the big bulker. Maybe they are sturdier. Who knows?
I got mine for $160, but with the conversion rate too from $1 to US dollar, it was about $140 with 3 games, and a carrying case, and styluses, and a charging dock.
I had to pay like $170 for mine.
It was just the system.
It was just the friggin' system.
So for me, it was a value deal. That was a price where I considered acceptable. $250 for the Vita, it's not acceptable for me. But I've held a Vita, I've played a Vita. It feels so much sturdier. It feels so much better. It's such a better designed piece of hardware.
Of course, the 3DS has the better
software. Yeah, the 3DS has a better software.
Has the software.
So, we're
X and Y.
Yeah, Pokemon. Oh my gosh, I am so freaking stoked for Pokemon. This will be my first Pokemon game since Crystal.
That's why I gave you Black. Just so you beat, like, honestly, Black is not the best version to get back into things. I'm not gonna lie.
I want the experience.
You need the experience. Yeah. Exactly. You need the experience.
I'm really excited. So where do we go from here? We were talking about this before. Is the future of Nintendo handhelds? That seems to be where they get their successes. Maybe what they need to do, this is going to sound kind of bad, maybe they need to outsource their hardware. Yeah. There's companies that get it right. Maybe they need to find someone who can make the hardware better and just say, okay, you're going to make our hardware, we're going to make that software for you and sell it.
Nintendo is so great with software. So focus on that. Make it even better than your best, because that right there would just blow people out of the water, because software usually is their thing. To get help with the hardware, to create a system, the software and the hardware go together for the Nintendo, they're already winning with a crappy thing like the Wii. So think of their next generation being hardware and software. I mean, honestly, like, we'll fall down and worship them. I mean, honestly, they'll be like, buy our system. I'm like, yes, sir.
Well, for me, the best scenario would be who's ever the loser of this next high definition between Microsoft and Sony, who's ever the loser, if they could be like, okay, obviously we don't know what the heck we're doing, but we can obviously make decent hardware. We'll make the hardware for you, Nintendo. You lead us on the software. I think that would be a beautiful merger for what might end up being the last generation console.
Xbox Wii.
Wii box.
Wii box.
Wii boxing.
Welcome world right there. We would like to play in the box.
Heck, if Sony could design the next PlayStation and be able to keep some of their bigger franchises.
PlayStation Wii.
Oh my gosh. I just take my money. Shut up and take my money.
Station Wii. I mean, come on. This is it just blows right out of the water right there. Think of playing Pokemon and the graphics you got from like Uncharted and The Last of Us. Just imagine. Mario, holy Mario.
Game Freak getting a hold of Naughty Dog's engine and them collaborating on an open world Pokemon. That's it. Everyone would quit their jobs. The economy comes to a complete stop. Everyone quits their jobs to play Pokemon.
That just my eyes have been opened. I mean, oh my god, that'd be the greatest thing in the entire universe right there, dude. We can world peace. Freaking, you got Obama, you got the crazy dictators everywhere, all of them coming together, going, just play Pokemon, man.
Just play Pokemon, man. Have you played
North Korea? North Korea, you hate us Americans. Well, here's the new Pokemon game, and then just like, boom, we love you guys. World peace, baby, world peace. I can see it.
With StarCraft, we don't know StarCraft. All we play is Pokemon. Okay, so this has been another Two Drinks In. Thank you for joining us in this conversation. This was a wonderful conversation. This is what we live for. The JoJo's out there, the Jannas, the Jasons, the Jareds, the Levis. Leave us your feedback. Leave us your comments. Make your own response videos. We want this conversation to keep going. What do you think?
Want this conversation?
We would like you to keep this conversation going. And
Please just comment. Yes, we got that.
every episode needs one.
Stereotypical Asian.
So please, 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 please let us know what you're thinking. This has been Two Drinks In. See you guys later. Love ya. Bye-bye.
I got no more booze, Jamin.